It's now time for Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, live on the Woodward Sports Network. Every day, 2 to 4 p.m. Starring Ryan Ermanni, Michigan great and former NFL baller Braylon Edwards, and of course, Tom Mazaway. Let's talk some sports.
And here we go! Welcome, everybody, on a Monday on Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, live on WoodwardSports.com and Fox2.com. I am not Braylon Edwards. He is not Ryan Ermanni. We are not joined by Maz, but we are here to break it down. I am Spencer Raxter. There's Maz. Look at him. He's so cute. Little Bambi. Aww. Welcome to the show, Maz. How was your weekend? All right, good talk. I am Spencer Raxter. He is Flannel Sam. Of course, we have our guy Fletch in the TD booth and JB Smooth on the ones and twos. So, obviously, a lot to talk about. Yeah. We got Michigan. We got Lions. We're not even going to talk about the Red Wings and Pistons, who both won this weekend, because it's football. But before we get down into it, before we get, what Sam Flannel is known for, which are level-headed, very accurate takes, I want a little bit of an overreaction from the chat already. In the WoodwardSports.com chat, Ryder452. Most embarrassing program in all of D1 football. U of M overrated like everyone said we were. Big Ten is a joke. JJ is Shea Patterson 2.0. Clown program, clown season, done with them. Go Gators. How do you feel about that reaction,
man?
Sam?
Trust me, I understand wanting to go nuclear. I'm as angry as anybody, but that's a wee bit of an overreaction. Wouldn't you even say so?
I would say so as well. That is just a tad bit of an overreaction, but let's get right into it.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, big loss for Michigan football. They lost in the college football semifinal 45-51 to the TCU Horned Frogs. Sam, what are your initial reactions from that game? How upset were you when it happened? And how did that happen?
So my first reaction is I am so damn proud of that Michigan basketball team who showed so much perseverance on Sunday, rebounding from their worst loss of the season. Hunter Dickinson put up 32 and 12, win their conference home opener 81-46 over Maryland. Is that the game you wanted to talk about?
No, it is not. I'm sorry. It was a good win, though.
It was a good win.
Impressive win.
Oh, yeah. So when it comes to Saturday, oh, boy. I sit before you, Spencer Raxter, you, yes, JB, and you, Fletch, as a broken man who has just realized that Michigan just blew their greatest chance at a national championship since 1997. Yes. They just blew a golden opportunity, like a Willy Wonka-level golden ticket. This was
got a golden ticket.
Hey, and Michigan pissed it all away.
Yeah.
And that's literally what happened. Michigan... You don't understand how rare it is to get to play an opponent in the semifinals who you are that heavily favored against.
7.5 points. Or 8.5 points.
Nobody thought that TCU could actually win this game. But the only way that Michigan could have lost this game was self-inflicted errors, and that's exactly what they did. You cannot throw 2 pick sixes and win a game. You cannot have 2 empty possessions inside the TCU 3-yard line.
Yeah.
I know what everybody's going to say. Oh, but the Roman Wilson touchdown, that should have been a touchdown. That might be the case.
I thought it was a touchdown.
I agree too. But if you're a championship level team that has the Joe Moore Award winning offensive line for the 2nd year in a row, on 1st and goal from the inch line, you do not hand the ball off, a quick handoff to a converted linebacker. When you have Donovan Edwards in the backfield, you've got J.J. McCarthy who can sneak it. You have all different kind of options. You could have picked every option in the book, and that's the one you pick. Just a terrible loss. Good. So many self-inflicted wounds. And do you want me to make Michigan fans want to cut themselves even more?
Yes, I do, actually.
I know you do. Michigan scored 45 points.
Yes.
Max Duggan, TCU's quarterback, completed less than 50% of his passes.
I was just about to ask that. Sam Flannel, if I told you Max Duggan completes 14 passes for 225 yards, has 2 interceptions, there's no way TCU wins that game.
Absolutely. And Michigan gains 520 yards. All of that happened. Every single last thing that you said could happen happened. And Michigan still lost that game. And it's because of the self-inflicted errors, the turnovers, the not being able to capitalize at the red zone, but also There were a couple of moments in this game, and I think you would agree with me, when Michigan cut it to 21-16. And I personally thought, we're winning this game. We kind of effed around in the first half, and now we're a second-half team. Let's go. And what did TCU do? Drive it right down the field methodically, right like through Michigan's defense like butter.
Yes.
And then what happened? J.J. McCarthy throws the pick six. And from then on, it got close again. Like, it actually got to 41-38. And I thought, again, Michigan's going to win this game. They effed around. It was 41-22. They came back. They forced a big turnover, Mozzie Smith forcing a fumble. And they went down and scored. It was 41-38. And then they had TCU 3rd and 7.
Yes.
From like their own 25. And then what happened? For some reason only God, your mama, and me knows, they decided Jesse Minter, channeling the spirit of Don Brown, decides
Professor Blitz.
Dr. Blitz.
Dr. Blitz.
Decides to send the house, have DJ Turner in man coverage against Quentin Johnston, and then Quentin Johnston catches a little pass, DJ Turner misses the tackle, and Quentin Johnston's off to the races.
But Sam, why wasn't Mr. Will? Why wasn't he on Quentin Johnston? If you said it multiple times.
I did.
Multiple times last year, last week.
I did.
Multiple times, Will Johnson has the potential to be a Charles Woodson-esque cornerback at Michigan.
See the God, your mama, and me comment.
Would a Charles Woodson-esque cornerback allow someone like Quentin Johnston to go for 6 catches for 163 yards and a touchdown?
I'll tell you what, though, that wasn't all Will Johnson.
It was not. It was not.
It was heavily inflated by that one play, but I guess the point is that you can't allow that to happen. Despite all of the errors, despite all of the mistakes, despite all of the poor play, they still had plenty of chances to win this game. And the defense, the one that was so heralded coming into the game, only allowing 13.4 points per game, and I know 14 of them were on pick sixes, they gave up 51 to TCU. That Michigan rushing defense, which was also very heralded, coming in, allowed 85.2 rushing yards per game, gives up 263. And guess what? TCU's starting running back, their 1,000-yard running back, got injured in the first half.
Had his helmet off for most of the game.
It was to TCU's backup, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Just an inexcusable, terrible loss that I will have open flesh wounds on for about the next 3 to 6 months.
I do want to ask, me, God, and your mother, or whatever you said, why those 2 red zone possessions for Michigan? 1st and goal, or goal to go.
Yep.
And on the first one, you draw up a Philly special.
For God, your mama, and me again.
For no reason. You draw up a Philly special, and you don't get it.
No.
Unfortunately. And then the second one, like you said, you give it to a converted linebacker instead of who I think is the best running back in the Big Ten, in Donovan Edwards. Mm. And I said it multiple times during the season, I thought Donovan Edwards is better than Blake Corum.
Yeah.
And you don't give him the ball in either of those opportunities. How can you do that? Is that malfeasance? Is that coaching malfeasance?
Of course it's malfeasance. In the first one with the Philly special, there are all kinds of things that you can do other than call some cute little trick play. They could have kicked a field goal. Yes. I would have been okay with that. They could have ran it with Donovan Edwards. I would have been okay with that. They could have play action J.J. McCarthy and maybe ran a route for Loveland or Schoonmaker. I don't know if Schoonmaker was injured at the time, but for Loveland. And they didn't do it. Instead, they tried a trick play. I kind of feel like a lot of teams are sort of seeing how it worked for the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and are like, I want to do it, but not everybody can execute it because it's a very sort of lot of moving parts on that play. And then, of course, on the second one, why do you give the ball to Khalil Mullings on a quick handoff? That's a very difficult maneuver to do. That's something that I've never seen them do all season.
No.
But for some reason, on the biggest stage, with a chance to go to the national championship, that's when you decide to bust out all your cute play calling. I don't get it.
So as a Michigan State alum myself and a Michigan State Spartan dog, I cannot throw a bunch because Michigan State had an embarrassing season.
Sure.
By far. But I would have to think, looking in the maize and blue goggles of a Michigan fan, this loss hurts more than last year's loss to Georgia.
100%. Because last year, it was against a Georgia team with an all-time great defense. Had 5 first-round draft picks, and Nakobe Dean, and Kelly Ringo, and Jalen Carter. That's a damn good defense. That's a historic defense. This year, they didn't lose to an SEC powerhouse. They didn't lose to Alabama. They didn't lose to Georgia. They didn't lose to one of those great LSU teams. They lost to TCU.
The Horned Frogs.
And no disrespect to TCU. They had a good team. They had a Heisman candidate quarterback.
Unranked to start the season.
Yes. They had an all-world wide receiver. They have a good running game and a defense that I think when you saw them play against Michigan was a little bit better than maybe I gave them credit for. But still, this was a team that came into the year unranked. We're 5-7 last year with a first-year coach picked to finish 7th in the Big 12. This was an opponent. Michigan, I kind of felt like they got a gift by playing TCU.
Yes, I did too. I thought there's no way they'd lose this game.
Did I Did I disrespect them? Maybe a little bit.
A lot of people
and that's on me. But I still feel like if Michigan would have just played them straight up and not made so many mistakes, they would have won. But you know what? That's coulda, shoulda, woulda. And that's what makes it hurt so bad, because Michigan, this was your opportunity. This was it. College football playoff appearances with this much right in front of you don't grow on trees.
They do not.
You can't just squander one like this, and this is exactly what they did. And it's very, very painful, and I hope that all the Michigan players and the coaches, they feel the pain that I'm feeling.
I'm sure they do. And we're obviously going to get into it more in depth. I have a couple questions to ask Mr. Flannel about this Michigan game, and we're obviously going to talk about the Lions' absolute dominating win over the Bears on Sunday to keep their playoff hopes alive. They end up beating the Bears 41-10, probably the best performance on the year as a whole team. Beautiful to watch, beautiful to see happen. We got a lot to break down in that, but first, let me tell you all about Swiss Insurance, because Swiss Insurance groups and their employees are heavily involved in their community. It is very rewarding, but comes with great responsibility. If you sit on a local sports youth board, homeowners association, or a volunteer coach, directors and officers insurance is a must. Make sure the kids, parents, and volunteers are protected. Call Swiss Insurance today.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
What's a winter wonderland if you can't shop, eat, and play? Lucky for you, you can do it all at the Downtown Detroit Markets, Cadillac Lodge, and the new winter version of the Monroe Street Midway, all located just across the street from Campus Martius Park. Find the fun at deckedoutdetroit.com.
Woodward Avenue, the first paved road in America. Woodward Sports, the first sports network born in Detroit and made for Detroit.
And welcome back, everyone, to Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, without Ermanni, Edwards, and Maz, live on WoodwardSports.com and Fox2.com. I am Spencer Raxter. He is Flannel Sam. We have Fletch in the TD booth and JV Smooth on the ones and twos. We just got the initial breakdown of Michigan's heartbreaking loss in the college football playoff semifinal to the TCU Horned Frogs. And I'm going to say, I put the tweet out there that, TCU does have Jesus on their side.
Yeah,
so it's going to be hard to beat a team like that.
Yeah,
but
Christian.
Flannel Sam, this question, we've been talking about it before, but now you're faced with the absolute truth of it. With a loss in the college football playoff semifinal, is this season by Michigan still a success?
That is such a difficult question to answer, and one that has multi layers. Because on one hand, if it wasn't a failure, if it was a success, then why do I feel so broken right now?
That is a good point.
Why do I feel so sad? Why do I feel so empty, like it was a missed opportunity on biblical levels? On the other hand, I'm not going to...
Because you lost to the Jesus school.
Exactly.
That's fair.
I'm not going to pretend like the win at Columbus didn't happen. I'm not going to pretend like the very satisfying win for me against Michigan State didn't happen. A 13-0 season, Big Ten champions for the back-to-back year. But the problem is that they had a golden opportunity. They weren't facing a Georgia team. They were playing a team that they should beat. This kind of furthers the perception that when Michigan goes to the big bowl games, they crap the bed, which historically they mostly have.
1-6.
1-6 under Jim Harbaugh.
That's not good.
This is a Bo Schembechler-like season where they would win the Big Ten, dominate, and then get on the biggest stage and lose. So to me, I'm going to have to say yes, this season is a failure, because if you want to swim in those waters, if you want to be more than just Big Ten grade, if you want to be a national powerhouse, if you want to vanquish all of the perceptions of Michigan, you go out and you beat TCU, and then you go out against Georgia and beat them as well, because Georgia, I don't know if you watched another game, they don't look like world beaters.
They do not. They should have lost. Very open.
They should have lost to Ohio State.
They should have.
But, and that's the thing.
How much would that have hurt more if Ohio State was playing in the national championship game?
100%, because I can at least still lay claim to the fact that Michigan runs the Big Ten and nobody else. We run this conference. But I know. We want to think bigger than just Big Ten great. We want to be nationally great. And right now, Michigan can't say anything. They can't claim to be an elite level program, because elite level programs, they get to that stage and they win those games against a team that they're favored against. So, yeah, this season is a failure on that level. It doesn't mean that, if you're not first, you're last. The 13-0 still counts. It's not like we were 5-7 or anything. But when you want to swim with the big dogs, you got to finish.
Yeah, if you want to swim with the Sharks, you got to get in there. And I saw Michigan man Jason put it in the WoodwardSports.com chat, put it very well. We didn't take the next step.
No.
Michigan did not take that next step, and that's what everyone was expecting this year, is you put J.J. McCarthy in there. You have that defense who, it lost some pieces, but it still has some great pieces on it. You expect them to push that next level, take that next step, and that next step is winning a college football playoff game. And that is not something that happened. So if I was a Michigan fan, yes, I would say this season is a failure. Although it was, like you said, great undefeated regular season, Big Ten title, beating Ohio State and Columbus for the first time in 50 years or whatever it is. But it feels empty.
Yeah.
As a finish like that, because how often do we see in the college football playoff the good team blows out the bad team in that first round? It always happens. This year it didn't. Is that because the college football landscape is more even this year without having the elite Georgia defense, or Alabama having an off year? Does that mean that it's more open? And if it does, that should hurt Michigan fans even more, because Alabama's going to come back next year and be just as mean. Georgia's going to retool and have that. Ohio State's going to be hungry again next year. And then you don't know what's going on with teams like Texas A&M could make a bounce back with all of their highly touted guys. Obviously, Clemson is still out there with Dabo Swinney, different players. USC looking like they're going to be a powerhouse with one of the best players in college football in Caleb Williams. Like you said, this was Michigan's best opportunity to make a national championship game and win a national championship game, and they came up short. I
mean, I'm not going to act like next year they're not going to have a great team that they shouldn't be back. But at the same time, there are no guarantees in life. Teams are going to get better. I expect Alabama to be better. Texas A&M, like you mentioned. USC is bringing back Caleb freaking Williams, and USC will be in the Big Ten soon as well, which is also another piece of great news. This was a wide open season. There wasn't a dominant team. Georgia was obviously the best team, but you saw what their defense looked like against Ohio State. They gave up 41 points. TCU. I mean, TCU was in the college football playoff.
So Sonny Dykes' first year.
Yes, and Ohio State. Think about this. Ohio State lost by 22 at home against Michigan, and they still found a way to back in.
Almost beat Georgia, too.
And that just shows me that this was a weak playoff.
Yes, it was a weak year for college football. Really, I wouldn't say a weak year for college, but there was no one team. You thought it was Georgia all year, and then you see them almost lose in different games. You see them get tested by teams throughout the SEC, and you see Ohio State come in there and run up a check on them. So there was not really that one dominant team where if you get in there, you don't feel like you have a chance to win like Georgia was last year, or like Alabama has been for the past 10, 15 years under Nick Saban. So that's what it was for me. That's how I would see it if I was a Michigan fan, this was our best opportunity to go out there and win a national championship, and we didn't get it done. And I have another deep question for you, Sam Flannel.
Oh, boy.
Because I've seen it on forums, on Reddit, on different posts saying, I'd rather beat Ohio State than win a college football playoff game. If you could flip the results of those two games, meaning the Michigan Wolverines lose in Columbus but win in the college football playoff, would you do it?
I would, but it's circumstantial because it was at Columbus, which is harder, and Michigan had already won against Ohio State the year before. If Michigan was still on that losing streak to Ohio State, nothing burned me more than that when Michigan just could not beat Ohio State worth a damn. So they already got the Ohio State monkey off their back, and then to get a national championship, that would just be huge. That would be their first one since '97. That would make them a national powerhouse. So I would absolutely take that over an Ohio State
win. Columbus.
Yeah, I mean, losing losing in Columbus, that's obviously something that Michigan has had a tradition of. It's hard to beat a national powerhouse on the road. So it wouldn't have been as shameful as losing at home, as never beating them at all. So a national championship, I would take it.
Oh, and here we go in the Woodward Sports Chat. A lot of overreactions. J.J. McCarthy is a mid-quarterback.
Jesus
Doughboy
Christ.
Steve. J.J. beat Michigan. Steve Deesburner. Fire Jim Harbaugh.
Oh, come on.
I feel like he's trolling, but what are your thoughts? We're going to get into that actually next. Big Game Jim will be our next topic, but what does it make you feel about J.J. McCarthy? That this was supposed to be, like you said, you move on from Cade McNamara, you bring in J.J. McCarthy. He is the hot new girlfriend. He's got the big arm. He has the running ability. He has the playmaking ability. We saw it. And yes, the stats were a lot better with J.J. McCarthy in the run of Ohio State Big Ten Championship and college football playoff. But the result ended up the same.
It did.
So what does that mean to you? Is J.J. McCarthy just too young? This is his first year as a starter. He's not ready for the big time yet? Or was it simply the coaches didn't execute the play calling like they should have?
Well, speaking of hot girlfriends, right?
Yeah, yeah, JJ's got a hot girlfriend, that's for sure.
The dad thought so too. But we will, we're not gonna go there. To me, J.J. McCarthy showed enough this season, and hell, even in the college football playoff game against TCU, that he is the guy moving forward, that he's going to be a great quarterback. I know this is going to sound silly, and people are going to get on me for it. Other than the 2 pick sixes, which were biblical level damaging, he played really well. He made some throws that made me gasp. He brought them back in a lot of ways to a chance where they could win the game, and then the defense let him down. J.J. McCarthy, he showed me enough against Ohio State, basically winning that game in the first half and early second quarter by himself. He showed me enough in the college football playoff and in the Big Ten championship for me to think that he is the guy moving forward. He's just got such a skill set that you can't teach. He had a damn good year, 22 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
He did.
They were 13-0, beat Ohio State, did everything that they did last year, but you could see markedly that the passing game has improved.
Yes.
And they were able to kind of play a Big 12 style game, and they came up short, but other than the 2 pick sixes, they still were able to come back. It wasn't his fault necessarily. So a lot of the overreaction surrounding J.J. McCarthy, like, I'm pissed at them. I'm pissed at him for throwing 2 pick sixes. But what I will not take is all that J.J. McCarthy is mid. Cade McNamara would have won that game type of BS.
I've heard that before, too, is one of my Michigan friends told me during the game, like, if Cade McNamara was in there, that wouldn't have not scored on that Philly special because they wouldn't have run the Philly special. They just would have ran the ball. And I think that's a loser take. I think that's a loser's way out is, Cade would have been – no, Cade was bad. Cade was really bad. Now he's going to be the starting quarterback for Iowa. So that's how bad he is. But what does JJ need to improve on going into next year? What does he need to change or do better to try to avoid a similar result as what we saw this weekend?
Well, I think the coaching staff has to trust him a little bit more, first of all. I think with a whole offseason, remember he had a shoulder injury, so he didn't have a whole lot of an offseason. With a whole offseason working with the wide receivers, kind of ingratiating himself more into the offense, I think that will help him out a lot. I'd also like to see him be a little bit stronger in the pocket. He does tend to get happy feet. He does tend to not know when to leave, when to stay. But other than that, I don't think J.J. McCarthy to me isn't really a worry for next year. You saw the throws he could make. You saw that he's great throwing the football on the run. You see what he can do on the ground, pick up those big 3rd and 8s. A couple of big runs on one of those drives to score a touchdown to keep him in the game.
That's what I wondered is why wasn't he running earlier in the game? I feel like that was obviously the arm strength and the arm talent was a big sell for him over Cade, but the running aspect of it, the dual threat aspect of it was another big sell, and it wasn't being utilized in the biggest game of the season.
I mean, when I see J.J. McCarthy run the football, to me he looks just as fast as Blake Corum.
Yes.
I'm not saying he is Blake Corum. I'm just saying that is such a tool that you can use. You saw that it worked in the regular season. You saw that it worked against Ohio State.
You saw that it worked at the end of the game versus TCU.
Yes, it worked brilliantly. It helped keep them in the game, and I just don't understand why they didn't use it more throughout the season. Maybe get it going earlier on so that they can use it more and have more experience with it, because J.J. McCarthy, if you have him as your quarterback, he should rush for 700 to 800 yards.
I agree.
I understand they had Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum, but J.J. McCarthy can be such a huge part of the running game. And I think next year, if the coaching staff is smart, they saw what happened at the end of the year. They're going to have to realize that they need to practice these things. They can't just save it all. They can't just kind of play that in the phone booth football the whole season, because when it comes time to play like in the college football playoff, they need to have that experience.
They do. They need to have that experience. They need to have the multiple faceted offense.
Yes.
Where at the beginning of the year, it seemed like it was just old style Michigan Jim Harbaugh football, where they run the ball 40 times a game, and then if they throw it short, dink and dunks. But what you do when you bring in a quarterback like J.J. McCarthy is you have the ability to push the ball down the field. You have the ability to run options. How many times did you see an option play with J.J. McCarthy and Cade McNamara or Donovan Edwards throughout the year?
Never.
That is such a tough play for college athletes to guard, especially when you have two explosive athletes like a J.J. McCarthy and a Donovan Edwards or Blake Corum back there. I don't know. I feel like their offense was still very vanilla with J.J. McCarthy in there, when obviously they didn't need it to be anything more than vanilla to win the Big Ten and to do things like that. But if you don't do it early, you won't have it late. Yeah. And they didn't do it early in the season, and when they needed to have it against TCU, when it all matters, when everything was on the line, they couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, as much as I agree with you in a lot of ways, they still showed some stuff against TCU. The offense did bring them back.
Yes, for sure.
But they put themselves in such a hole, and a lot of that was J.J. McCarthy's fault, that they couldn't overcome it. But I just want to say one last thing. I know a lot of people, I didn't hear a ton of it, but I heard some of it. Kind of talk about, Cade McNamara wouldn't have thrown those pick sixes. Cade McNamara would have won that game.
Cade McNamara wouldn't have scored 45 points.
Which is lunacy to me, because last season, they both made it the same amount. They're the same guy. Absolutely not. In the final 3 games of last year, Cade McNamara, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions.
Eesh.
Not very good,
Not
right?
good at all.
And you saw it.
Yeah.
J.J. McCarthy in the final 3 games of this season. 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, plus 2 rushing touchdowns. If any of you want to put too much slander on J.J. McCarthy, you're an idiot.
Yes.
Idiot.
Tell him again. And another idiot is some people who said, this defense might be better than last year's.
Ooh.
This defense might be better. No, you don't lose 3 first-round picks in Aiden Hutchinson, David Ojabo, and Daxton Hill and become a better defense.
You want to talk about another thing that broke my heart? Michigan was out-physicaled at the line of scrimmage.
Yes, they were.
That Joe Moore offensive line just had their worst performance of the year. The defense didn't really get any pressure on Max Duggan. It was a beatdown in so many different ways and just so disappointing. And unfortunately, instead of talking about Michigan playing for a national championship, I have to basically have a therapy session with one Spenmo Rex.
You have to have a therapy session, and we got the place where you can go if you actually need it, which is SMA, or the Sports Marketing Agency. The Sports Marketing Agency helps spread awareness about mental health and substance abuse. Their new podcast, This is the S Word, helps fight the stigma about seeking help. Trust me, everyone, I used to work in this field. I know that stigma is a big reason people don't come forward to seek help, because they feel like they'll be judged for their issues. If you or someone you know is struggling, head to thesportsma.com to get the help you deserve.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on Shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Beverly Hills Golf, Woodward Golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today.
By now you know me, Christina Gennari, as the obvious choice in real estate. And you know my website, soldchristina.com, as your #1 resource for buying or selling your home. Myself, along with my amazing staff, pride ourselves on making your home buying and selling experience a relaxing and easy one. Come see why we are the obvious choice. Christina Gennari at soldchristina.com, the obvious choice in real estate.
When it comes to making your haircut truly an experience, there's no better place than Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men. Come to any one of our 26 Metro Detroit locations for an award-winning haircut experience and qualify for a chance to win a down payment for your dream home up to $200,000. Our precision haircut and talented stylists will have you looking good, feeling good, and give you a chance to change your life forever. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
The only sports network in Detroit that starts with a W. You know, because we win. Woodward Sports, Detroit's winning sports network.
Woodward Sports loves lobster.
We love it.
Oh, yeah.
Lobster.
And what better way to get your fix than Cousins Maine Lobster? With 2 trucks rolling around Detroit, you can be sure to find the best lobster rolls, lobster tots, and lobster tacos to power through your day. Go to cousinsmainelobster.com and search locations to find the Detroit schedule, or you can always scan that QR code, but also download the app and order ahead and get yourself some reward points.
Welcome back, everyone, to Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. Without Ermanni, Edwards, or Maz, they are on holiday. We are here live on woodwardsports.com and fox2.com. There you have Maz. We're keeping his seat warm with a little Bambi. I am Spencer Raxter. He is Flannel Sam. We have Fletch in the TD booth and JB Smooth on the ones and twos. And don't worry, folks, we're going to talk Lions. It's a 2-hour show. We got a lot to talk about. But Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, you said it yourself, is 1-6 in bowl games against with Michigan.
Yep.
And now Sonny Dykes in one season has more college football playoff wins than Jim Harbaugh does.
Keep it going.
It's tough for me to say that his tenure has been what they expected.
Yeah.
What you expected as Michigan fans is Harbaugh is the prodigal son returns. He is ready to lead this team to domination and championships. It's like LeBron at the Miami entrance. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not none.
Oh.
Not none. And
Not
you
done.
see how it is with Big Game Jim coming up short yet again. Flannel Sam, does this give you cause for pause on saying that Jim Harbaugh is, you said he could be going down as the best Michigan football figure of all time? Is that well starting to dry up?
I mean, I don't think that particular well is starting to dry up because of what he did as a player, being the best quarterback in school history and being one of the best coaches in school history. But what he had an opportunity to do if he would have won this game and then went on to win a national championship is become the greatest coach in school history. And now he's kind of got that stigma on him as the guy that can't win the big one. 1-6 in bowl games is unacceptable, but it could all be forgiven at 1-5 if they would have just took the next step this year and beat TCU. And I believe that's not necessarily my expectation. That's all it would have taken for him to sort of shed that label as a big game choker, to kind of shed that label of Michigan as a team that historically dominates the Big Ten, but falls short in big bowl games. I mean, this season basically was a Bo Schembechler type year. Remember what he did in Rose Bowls?
Yeah.
2-8.
2-8.
This is, I mean,
not great.
Hey, in Jim Harbaugh's first 2 college football playoff appearances, he lost both of them. And the one last year we can understand, but this one, there's no excuses whatsoever. Do I think that he's going to be the coach at Michigan for a long time and do very great things, continue to have this program ascend? I think so. I don't know so. And if they would have won this game and won the national championship, I'd feel a lot more confident.
Yeah.
But I think there is something to say about Michigan just choking in big bowl games.
There is. It's something there for sure.
They've had all kinds. I mean, 1971 is a really good example. They outscored.
Great year. I remember that year.
They outscored their opponents in the regular season 409-70, and then in the Rose Bowl. Yes, Jesus. 409-70 in the regular season. And
how do you know this stuff?
Hey, I'm a Michigan football historian.
That's fair. That's fair.
But then in the Rose Bowl, they lost to a 3-loss Stanford team, and that they would have won the national championship that year. They would have been considered one of the most dominant teams in college football history, but they blew that. And this is just kind of carrying on the tradition. This could have been considered the greatest team in Michigan football history if they would have finished the job. And even an all-time great Michigan team if they would have just beat TCU and lost in the national championship to Georgia, not to Ohio State. But they didn't do it. They didn't put themselves in that position. Instead, they did what Michigan teams always do. They just choked it away.
They choked it away. And how I see it with Jim Harbaugh is, yes, he is better than the Rich Rod and Brady Hoke eras of Michigan football, which is not saying much.
No.
But he was not simply brought in here to be better than Brady Hoke. He was brought in here to bring this team to new heights, to make this team a national powerhouse, and as Michigan fans know, and as they say, they have the most recognizable brand in college football, period, the Block M. And you can get a lot done recruiting-wise and talent-wise by throwing that Block M around, but to come up short, like I said, I'm not holding anything against him from last year. Last year, Georgia's team was one of the most, probably the best defense in the history of college football. A historically great season, and they beat Michigan, which is what happens. But against the TCU team that you were favored by, that you were better than, that you were tougher than, to come out there and play that flat tells me something about Jim Harbaugh and how he's definitely brought this team up from what it was. He won back-to-back Big Ten titles, sure. He made back-to-back college football playoff appearances. Sure, it's a great feat. But you need to cash it in. If you expect, some people will say Jim Harbaugh is a top 6 coach, top 5 coach in college football. If you want to be on the same level, nobody's going to be on Nick Saban's level, so we'll put that out of the way. One of the best coaches in the history of anything. But if you want to be on that level of a Dabo Swinney, a Kirby Smart, any of those other coaches that are in that upper echelon, you need to win these games. You need to win college football playoff games and eventually a national championship, and he hasn't been able to do that.
And there's nothing necessarily wrong with this, but right now all Jim Harbaugh is, and sort of the lexicon of college football coaches, is he's on the same tier as a guy like Brian Kelly, who is a damn good coach, but another one who's made college football playoffs and doesn't win. What this loss to TCU did on sort of a macro level is it's made Jim Harbaugh's tenure at Michigan overall slightly underwhelming. Obviously, what he did to stabilize the program after the 2 worst eras in Michigan football history was awesome. I loved it. They became a perennial 9-10 win team, but they would always lose to Ohio State. In fact, in 2018 and 2019, they got smashed by their rivals in embarrassing sort of manhood taking away sort of ways. And then in 2020 was the COVID year, which was the single most miserable season in Michigan football history. I'm proud that he was able to bring them back to a team that won Big Ten championships and beat Ohio State. But if you would have told me in December of 2014 when he was hired, that by now they wouldn't have even played for a national championship, I would be disappointed. And I know a lot of Michigan fans, if they gave themselves truth serum, would also be disappointed.
Yes.
So that loss was just so huge. What it could have done for him positively, basically.
Put him in that top 4.
Yes,
it would have
100%.
put him in that top 4 of college football coaches.
Yes, it would have put him. It would have been like Saban, Dabo Swinney, Kirby Smart, Jim Harbaugh.
Yep. Ed Orgeron, baby.
Ed Orgeron.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Yeah.
Where dirt poor streams go to die. But hey, Ed Orgeron has a national championship.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
Joe Burrow,
Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson might have had something to do with it. But
such a crazy team.
Such a greatest offense in college football history.
For sure. Travis Etienne. Or not Travis Etienne, Clyde
Edwards-Helaire.
That's insane.
But that's what happens when you want to swim with the big boys. You got to beat TCU, and when you lose to TCU, you got to also take the medicine.
Yes.
Where it takes you from being an upper tier program, like an elite program, back to being a top 10 program, where you go from being an elite level coach to just a top 10 coach. That's what Michigan is. That's what they've always been.
And now you said he could have taken that step to be there with the Kirby Smarts and the Dabo Sweeneys, even though they have national championships. I don't know if a single playoff win puts him there, but now he's still slumming around with the he's with the Lincoln Rileys and he's with the Brian Kellys in that sort of second tier of college football coaches after you look at the champions and the people that have actually done it before. And Sonny Dykes, his first year at a school, first year at TCU, he leads them to a college football playoff victory over an undefeated Michigan team. That catapults him into that upper echelon. Obviously, he's not there yet. You need sustained success to be there, but he's already done something that Harbaugh couldn't in 8 years?
I mean, and when you do something big like that and you're Sonny Dykes, you basically put yourself right up, maybe a tier below a guy like Jim Harbaugh and Brian Kelly.
Yes.
Hell, if he leads TCU to a national championship,
he's over. He's up.
He's beyond Jim Harbaugh.
Yep.
And that's... Do you guys understand when I said just how big that game was, how big the stakes were? You're about to go, as Jim Harbaugh, potentially, from being the best coach in the nation, not named Nick Saban, to worse than Sonny Dykes. The college, those are the waters you want to swim
sure.
in, and they prove
like I said, TCU's got Jesus on their side. I could see them beating Georgia. But before we go to break and before we get told about Folling, are you nervous at all for Jim Harbaugh to leave Michigan and go back to the NFL? There are some openings. There are, obviously, Denver is a very attractive position. You have the Colts position in Indianapolis is going to be opening. We don't know what's going to go on with Josh McDaniels and the Raiders, but you could see a position there. And Jim Harbaugh is always on the top of people's lists when they talk about head coaching candidates for the NFL. He flirted with the Vikings last year. It was almost a done deal.
Yeah.
And then the rug got pulled underneath him and he came back. Are you worried about him going back to the NFL?
Of course I'm worried, because for this whole season, I kind of got a big head myself as a Michigan fan. Like, this team was a team that could win a national championship. Jim Harbaugh is going to do such great things that they're going to build a statue from him. They probably already should. But
I mean, if Bo's got one.
Hey, right. Know. Yeah, I mean, hey. But now with that loss, thinking that we could not only lose that game as a Michigan fan, but lose our coach, the coach that, even though he's not perfect, he's the best we've got right now, and the one that I think can take us to that level still. The fact that he might be gone and there's an unknown. I mean, hell, if they do what Michigan basketball did, what are they going to do? Hire Mike Hart or something like that? That's just. Yeah, of course I'm terrified.
I would
because
be scared too.
The unknown, when you have a coach who at least got you to 2 consecutive Big Ten championships and beating Ohio State and look like the dominant program of the Big Ten, if you're the dominant program of the Big Ten and you win Big Ten championships, you're at least going to put yourself in the dance.
Every year.
And I understand that he hasn't gotten it done in those waters. Michigan, historically, besides 1997, hasn't gotten it done in those waters. But you at least want to be there. You want to give yourself a chance, because one of these days, you're going to break through if you keep giving yourself the opportunity.
You got to keep chipping away. Once you're in the dance, you have a puncher's chance. And you got to keep chipping away and getting in there. And Michigan just fell short on New Year's Eve. It's all it is. And we will be back shortly to talk about the Lions and their dominating win over the Chicago Bears. But first, let me hear about the Folling Warehouse.
No problem. I got you, Spencer. Folling Warehouse in Hamtramck is home to the original football bowling game with 2 ways to play: $12 unlimited play, or you can always reserve a lane for you and up to 10 people for $120. They've got the $2 mystery beer machine and fully loaded bars. So get your fold on and check them out at foldingwarehouse.com.
It's a great day to get some Centron in your life. Okay. There it is. Centron, here we go. Gotta grab the cranberry. Oh wait, it's 2 for $4. Gotta double up with the classic as well. Centron World, baby. Centron, available at select Krogers, and if you wanna know how, go to @CentronWorld.com. You get dope like me. You know what? Why wait? Great taste, guaranteed.
As chilly weather approaches, Big Boy's got the perfect comfort meals for you. Try our hearty classic meatloaf or our creamy Cajun chicken Alfredo. These will be sure to leave you craving for more. How about breakfast? Our stuffed potato pancakes are back with our lumberjack, blockbuster, and Santa Fe Garden. These potato pancakes will definitely fill you up. Whether it's for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, come stock up on the perfect comfort meal today. We'll see you soon at Big Boy.
We aren't quite sure if they consume more beer or sports. Either way, the heavyweights are here. Live on Woodward Sports, daily 5 to 7 p.m.
Planet Fitness is home to the Judgment-Free Zone.
Judgment-free?
Membership starting at $10
Only
a
$10?
month. Yes, only $10. You can join in club today. You always can check them out at planetfitness.com. But Woodward Sports will be broadcasting live from Planet Fitness on Eureka Road in Southgate all day Friday, January 6th, which once again, that is this Friday, just in case you're bad with dates like me. But
This Friday.
This Friday, you'll be able to meet the likes of Darren McCarty, Braylon Edwards, Ryan Ermanni, and the rest of the team. Plus, we're giving out chances to win tickets to see Joel Embiid, James Harden, and the 76ers take on the Detroit Pistons January 8th. Not to mention, they will have free pizza for all from 12 to 3 p.m. It's Planet Fitness, Fletch, where your fitness is
essential. Welcome back, everyone, to Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. Without Ermanni, Edwards, and Maz, they are on holiday, but we appreciate you tapping in live on WoodwardSports.com. And there's Maz holding it down. Looks a lot thinner. But live on WoodwardSports.com and Fox2.com, we just got done talking about going over Michigan's catastrophic meltdown.
Yeah.
And I can see Flannel Sam is still hurting. So let's bring those spirits up and let's talk about something great. What the Detroit Lions did to the Chicago Bears on Saturday. The Lions went out there and absolutely dominated the Chicago Bears, winning at home 41-10. All facets of the game, complete and utter domination. And this is something we've seen from the Lions quite a few times in this stretch of games. You could say against Jacksonville,
yes,
they had a dominating performance. Against the Giants, they had a dominating performance. Against Minnesota, they had a dominating performance. And now again, against the Chicago Bears, they had a dominating performance. Let me spot out some of these numbers, Sam. The Lions, 26 first downs. The Bears, 9 first downs. The Lions had 0 turnovers. The Bears coughed it up twice. Jared Goff went for 21 of 29, only 8 incomplete passes, 255 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Jamal Williams, 22 carries for 144 yards and a touchdown. DeAndre Swift, 11 carries for 78 yards, 4 catches for 39 yards, and 2 touchdowns. What did this mean for the Lions to go out there, bounce back from that ugly performance in Carolina, and absolutely throttle the Bears in Ford Field?
Lions
fans! Lions fans!
Those type of numbers are going to make me cry tears of joy. It's just so beautiful after crying tears of sadness on Saturday night. But yeah, that was coming off of the way that they had lost at Carolina, where that was sort of a gut check kind of game. How will they respond? They gave up Carolina's franchise record for rushing yards in a game.
Yes, they did.
They looked like they might have blown their chances at the playoffs. And I said before the game, the one thing that they can do to just shed all doubt is to just beat the Bears like they stole something. Go out and leave no doubt early on. And that's exactly what they did. All those numbers are beautiful. It was a total incomplete and utter domination. And to kind of laugh at the Bears really quick, did you know that they rushed for 200 yards as a team and lost by 31?
Yikes.
Because they can't throw the football. Justin Fields, 7 of 21, 75 yards, sacked 7 times. The running game got it going. The passing game just looked like a well-oiled machine. The defense, which played their worst game of the season, or maybe that or Seattle, but probably Carolina, came back with a vengeance.
Bounced back in a big way.
It was a beautiful game. It was the type of game that the Lions needed. It's the game that further reinforces that this is a different team. It was from minute 1 to minute 60. The coaches made adjustments. The players made plays. It was beautiful, and it was Brad Holmes' guys. It was the draft picks. It was the free agents. It was just so beautiful to watch.
It was beautiful. It was a lot of fun. Like you said, complete dominance in all facets of the game. The adjustments were very impressive. You saw in the first quarter, I believe, or the first half, Justin Fields had over 100 rushing yards in the first quarter, finishes the game with 132.
And that's the only way that the Bears could win, is if Justin Fields ran it all over him. And technically, by the numbers he did, the Bears did.
Yes.
But they still lost by 31.
But they still lost by 31. It was impressive to see them, like you said, make adjustments mid-game, make adjustments mid-quarter, and have things work for them, do different things, put people in different places, watching the offense play as well as it has, and watching Jameson Williams get himself an open field touch on a reverse that he took 40 yards. Could have been 60 and a touchdown if he would have cut inside, but we're not gonna harm him for that. We're not gonna harsh him for that. He did his job and he was explosive at it. What does this mean going forward? looking into Lambeau, can they replicate a performance like this? Can they do the same thing, or at least try to do the same thing against the Green Bay Packers in the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field?
Well, I don't think, obviously, that they can replicate a performance like this, because the Lions' offense, while being elite, while having all those weapons, while having Ben Johnson as their coordinator, they were playing at home against the worst defense in the NFL. They're going at Lambeau, a place that has historically been a house of horrors for them, playing a team that has everything on the line, and playing a team with a lot of great defensive personnel. You saw what they did to Minnesota. But what it does give them is it gives them a chance. It gives them an opportunity to go into Green Bay and at the very least spoil their season. And if Seattle helps the Lions out, make the playoffs. And it gives me confidence that they can go in and win. They established the run. Their offense looked like a well-oiled machine. And their defense, whereas, at points in the season and maybe last week, I'd be worried about them getting some stops, worried about Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon running all over them. I'm thinking this is a team that can hold the Aaron Rodgers-led Packers to like between 17 and 24.
Yeah.
And at that point, you have a shot. They might be able to force a couple of turnovers, and that's what you need to do.
They did in the first game.
Yes, that's what you need to do in order to win games on the road. So having a beatdown like that at the expense of the Chicago Bears, of course it gives me confidence. It makes me think that this is a team that is actually good. That 6-1 run wasn't a fugazi. It was more, they're more like that 6-1 team than they were the 1-6 team. And to me, I'm feeling pretty good going into Green Bay.
I am too, even though Green Bay's defense looked pretty damn good against Minnesota.
Yeah.
JB, what does this mean for the Lions? What does this victory mean for the Lions dominating a bad team, which they should have at home?
That means they have a lot of confidence built up in them right now. And going into Green Bay, seeing the results of, this past weekend of NFL games, seeing that they still are waiting for the Seahawks to lose, this puts a lot of pressure on them right now. But I think they're up for it. I really do. I think they're going to go into the frozen tundra of Green Bay and actually come away with the win just because they have this confidence beat up. And, of course, Aaron Rodgers has been talking a lot of smack about the Lions lately, man.
He has. He's been talking a lot of crap. That's what he does.
Yeah.
He's a loser. I hate Aaron Rodgers. But you look at the Lions bouncing back, and like you said, the run defense, although it couldn't hold Justin Fields in that first quarter at least, they held Khalil Herbert to 31 yards. They held David Montgomery to 24 yards. So this is something that obviously they improved on. Obviously they focused on when going into this game, because if you give up, the franchise record for rushing yards, the Carolina Panthers, it's probably something you'd want to work on. And they made adjustments and they got it done.
In the in-game adjustments, that's what was so impressive, because remember, pretty much all of the Bears' total yards in the entire game came on that first drive where they went right down and scored. I was a little worried. And then what happened next? Chicago got the ball back, and Justin Fields had that big run that led to a field goal.
That was a cool play, too.
That was a hell of a cool play.
They snapped it to Komet, and he pitched it to Justin Fields. That was a really cool play design.
Well, the one before, I think it was just Justin Fields. The one that set up the field goal. But, yeah, the one you were talking about was great, too. And it was important, too, that they caught Justin Fields from behind and didn't let him score a touchdown.
That's for sure.
But then right after that, the Bears' offense was pathetically stagnant. And if you hold a team to 10 points, if you make them stagnant after that, you're going to win in the NFL 99.9% of the time.
Definitely. That's what you need to do. That's what you need, especially when you're looking at an explosive athlete and a guy like Justin Fields that takes the snaps. Is you have to get in his head. You have to make him make different reads, because he still is early in his career. There are still things that he needs to work on, but he's going to be dangerous if he gets his passing game down a little bit. If he improves, obviously the receiving core is way down. Darnell Mooney is their best receiver. He's on the IR.
Yeah.
They have other guys missing that they're looking towards, but still 75 yards, there's no excuse.
There's no excuse for that whatsoever, and it just kind of shows how limited the Bears' passing offense is. And if you had to make Justin Fields rely on throwing the football, that you have a pretty good chance at winning. I mean, a 33.3% completion percentage, under 100 yards. And I understand it's not all his fault. I feel like the play design, it looks to me like a lot of times just Justin Fields go back there and make a play.
Yeah.
They don't have any receivers. I mean, Chase Claypool's their number one. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown's much less talented brother, Equanimous.
Dante Pettis, cast off from the 49ers.
N'Keal Harry. Byron Pringle. Oh, my goodness.
Just everybody's worst receiver from like 3 years ago are all on the Bears now.
And that doesn't give Justin Fields any help, and I understand that. But at this point, it's not our problem. Make Justin Fields beat us with his arm. He obviously could not. It was a pathetic performance by their passing offense, but it shows a lot, too, how they were able to get pressure on him. The secondary, after they benched Jeff Okudah, it played great.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about Jeff Okudah being benched? Like, it's not like he was not making plays against the Bears. He wasn't getting burnt or anything. Obviously, nobody was getting burnt.
No.
He only threw for 75 yards, but that's the second week in a row Jeff Okudah has been benched. Is there something about that? Is there something more into that?
There has to be something more to it because that's 2 weeks in a row getting benched. And you saw how he played against Carolina. He was one of the highlighted terrible players.
Yes.
And after he went
the
out,
whole defense was pretty bad.
Right. It was a terrible team performance. But it is alarming because Jeff Okudah, he was that guy at the beginning of the season that you're sort of like, hey, he's figured it out. He might be that cornerback who can at least start for them long term, and being benched for 2 weeks in a row and not missing him at all in this last game gives me some cause for pause, as I like to say.
JB, are you worried about Jeff Okudah's benching? Do you think that's something more in depth? Do you think there's more to it than what Lions fans are seeing on paper?
I don't think so. I think it might just be a precautionary matter. Maybe he's still a little banged up. Maybe they just don't want to, have any other further injuries happen or take effect to him. I don't think he's fallen out with any of the coaching staff at all. So it's just kind of weird seeing him just, as you said, taken out of this game when I thought he was doing pretty well. So it's really a mystery, man.
It is a mystery. It's weird. I'd love to see some clarity on that. Maybe we'll see some in some interviews because you got to think they're gonna reporters are gonna ask Aaron Glenn about that.
Of course.
So we'll see how he responds to that, and we'll be back with more about this Lions defense. But first, let me hear about Les Stanford.
Les Stanford in Dearborn. All month long at Les Stanford in Dearborn, you can get a 2022 Silverado for just $285 a month with just $1,995 down. Also a Malibu for just $225 a month with $1,995 down. Bring in the new year with new wheels. LesStanford.com. Find new roads.
Find them.
We here at Woodward Sports would like to thank everybody who helped us stuff our studio. The third annual Stuff a Studio was a major success thanks in part to our partners at Guardian Alarm and Myers Stores for making it all possible. And of course, we couldn't do it without our community leaders and viewers like you. Thank you for dropping off toys to our studio that were taken to the Mott Children's Hospital in Ann Arbor so every sick child could have a happy holiday.
We are incredibly grateful for Woodward Sports, Guardian Alarm, and Meyer for making the holidays so special for our patients and families.
So what we do is try to bring some normalcy to their lives at this time. This is a labor of love. It brings so much joy, and not just for the families and for the children, but for our staff.
Thank you.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions. Featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
Get a shot up. This is for the win. All of Detroit's sports teams live on Woodward. All of Detroit's sports coverage lives on Woodward Sports. Driving the best in Detroit sports coverage.
At Alta.
Uptime.
It matters. Alta Equipment has everything you need to get the job done. Have a big project coming up?
Project.
Alta Rent has you covered. Give them a call today at 844-GO-TO-ALTA. Once again, that is 844-GO, the number 2, as what said, Alta.
Uptime.
But wait, don't go anywhere, because I got to tell you guys
JB
about the
again.
Monroe Street Midway. Yes, it's me once again. Like I said before, they have swapped out the roller skating, the basketball, the mini golf for the giant Arctic slide, the winter bumper cars, indoor arcade, and puck putt.
Puck putt?
Puck putt? Am I saying this wrong?
Puck putt.
Puck putt?
Yeah.
Putt putt. All right. Anyway. Look, it's free to get into the site, and it's guaranteed to make a wonderful experience for you this holiday season. There's so many activities going on. There's not activations. There's activities going on. And Spencer, are you and the heavyweights going down this giant Arctic slide or what, man?
We just might. You might have to see us down there, man.
All right, man. I'm holding you to this, so 'cause we want to see you on that slide, man. I know the insurance hasn't kicked in yet, but still, it would be a fun experience.
Facts.
But if you don't want to see the heavyweights on the slide, you can always check out the food down there because they are serving up burgers, pierogies, homemade chili, chicken sandwiches, and mac and cheese bites. Not to mention, they have gluten-free and vegan options as well, so you might want to check those out too. But coming soon is the Woodward Sports Winter Olympics, where you'll be able to compete with the likes of Darren McCarty, Braylon Edwards, Adam Baydoun, Ryan Ermanni. Maz will even be there as well as the heavyweights in the Monroe Street Midway Games. So check it out. It's all brought to you by Decked Out Detroit, and you can always check them out at deckedoutdetroit.com for more information.
Check them out. Welcome back, everyone, to the Woodward Sports Network, woodwardsports.com and fox2.com for Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. Without Ermanni, Edwards, and Maz, I am Spencer Raxter. There is Bambi in the Maz chair. We have Flannel Sam on the desk next to me. Fletch in the TD booth and JB Smooth on the ones and twos. We just got done breaking down the lines. Dominating win over the Bears. And a big reason for that domination was the young rookie pass rushers stepping up. Brad Holmes, 3 pass rush prospects from this year. Josh Pascal, 4 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Aiden Hutchinson, 4 tackles, 0.5 sacks. 0.5 sacks. I didn't see the decimal point. An interception and a fumble recovery. And James Houston, 3 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble. You see that? James Houston became the first rookie to log a game with 3 sacks and a forced fumble since Max Crosby in 2019. This guy has been a revelation for the Detroit Lions. Another 6th-round draft pick from Brad Holmes. Now tied for the team lead in sacks, tied for the rookie lead in sacks at 7.5. This guy, Aiden Hutchinson, is the first player with 7 sacks and 3+ interceptions in a season since 1982 when sacks became official. The first player since 1982. If that doesn't scream Defensive Rookie of the Year, I don't know what does. Flannel Sam, tell me about these young pass rushers that Brad Holmes got his hands on.
I mean, it's basically watching those young pass rushers play and get after Justin Fields cured almost all of my depression from Michigan. That's how good they were. They had 5.5 sacks combined between the 3 just yesterday. And let me just take a second to really rave about James Houston. I honestly don't know if we are hyping him up enough.
I really don't think we are.
The man has played 6 games.
6. Coming into the game against the Bears, he played 77 defensive snaps. 77 defensive snaps coming into this game.
And that's unbelievable.
Yes.
And in 6 games, he has 8 sacks in 6 games.
Yes.
The most sacks in a player's first 6 games ever. James Houston. And what round was James Houston picked in?
I believe it was the 6th round.
That is the greatest draft pick of the season.
Oh,
100% by value.
By landslide.
8 sacks in 6 games.
Malcolm Rodriguez. They're both taken in the 6th round.
He already leads all rookies in sacks with 8, and he's played 6 games in a 6th-round draft pick. And I don't know, like I said, that doesn't get hyped up as much as it should. When you're talking about Defensive Rookie of the Years, I'm not saying James Houston should win it, but I am saying maybe get like a 5th or a 6th place vote.
I agree.
Because
I think he should be top 3.
Shoot, if you juxtapose this over a full season, what would he have, like 20 sacks?
20 sacks?
It's unbelievable.
He averages 1.33 sacks per game.
Unlimited snaps.
Unlimited snaps.
All that man does is sack the quarterback.
That's all he does. It's insane.
And Josh Pascal, a guy that I think all of us would agree that if it would have been a lost season for Josh Pascal, we could kind of accept that because Aiden Hutchinson had such a great rookie year. And James Houston came in and was dominant. But he woke up and sort of like acclimated himself to the season with 2 sacks.
2 sacks, big game. He is a guy that him and Kaminsky, I feel like, are similar types of players. Obviously, different body size. Kaminsky's big dude.
Yes.
And Pascal's a little smaller than Kaminsky, but the way they can be moved around the line and put in different positions, it's so impressive for me to see a guy like Josh Pascal move around the line, do what he does, help in the run game, and make plays like this down the field. Brett Holmes, I love you.
Yep.
I just do. I want to buy your jersey. Can you sell Brad Holmes jerseys? You could put Brad Holmes for jersey and then just 100% as the number, because he's batting 1,000 almost for draft picks. Obviously, Levi, we'll wait to see on that. And Ife Melifonwu, who played a good game.
He showed us something.
He played a pretty good game last year. Are the biggest takeaways that, okay, those didn't work out, but still, you get 2 guys in the 6th round in Malcolm Rodriguez and James Houston who are contributing, top 4 contributors to your defense this year.
Yes.
It is insane.
6th round draft picks, 2 of them are going to get defensive rookie of the year votes, and they rightfully should.
Probably all 3 of them. Well, I think Hutch, Malcolm, and Houston will all get defensive rookie of the year votes.
Yeah, and Hutch may win it.
Yes,
and also,
after that game, he will.
Along with picking like diamonds in the rough in the 6th round, which is even more amazing, it even speaks to more of his talent evaluation. One thing as a GM that you need to do very well, which, guys like Bob Quinn and Martin Mayhew didn't always do, was hit on your 1st round draft pick. For the love of God, especially when he's the 2nd overall pick. What did they do in 2021 with Penei Sewell? That was a hit. And Aiden Hutchinson, 7.5 sacks and more interceptions than Sauce Gardner.
Yes.
He's got 3.
He's got 3 interceptions. And the play where he got his interception, we're going to talk about it later, about the defensive game plan and the scheme that Aaron Glenn had cooked up for this game. But that play where Aiden Hutchinson got his interception, there were no players rushing Justin Fields. There was 11 men dropped back in coverage. Aiden Hutchinson was standing damn near on the sideline and just waits for that little 7-yard out, stepped in front of it, jumped. Amazing play. Terry called it today, Hutchinson Island. Hutch Island. And it's just amazing to see this guy. We heard about, obviously, all the stereotypical, he's a great kid, hard worker, someone you bring home to mom, high motor player. But when they got him into training camp, when they got him into OTAs, every single defensive coach said, this kid's way more athletic than we thought he was. And he's showing it by doing things like that.
I mean, that's why I thought coming out of the draft, I obviously watched him very close at Michigan, that he was kind of that star prospect that could turn into like a Joey Bosa. And that's
he's the blue chip stock that you wanted.
He is.
You got it.
He is. And not only that, what you're seeing too, after early in the year having problems with over pursuing, you're seeing his football IQ. You saw it against Justin Fields, the guy you cannot over pursue against. How many times did him holding contain help other players make plays? It got John Kaminsky and James Houston each a sack just because Aiden Hutchinson kind of like held contain on Justin Fields.
100%. And this is why when we were breaking down the draft, because that's what we did for 5 months because the Lions were awful last year, I was convinced Aiden Hutchinson was going number 1 overall. I didn't even entertain the thought of the Lions being able to draft him because I thought he was going number 1 overall, because to me he was the best player in the draft. And then when he fell, when I saw the Jags take Trayvon Walker and Brad Holmes sprinted to the down, I was like, well, you don't get a chance to do that. That guy was the number 1 overall pick. Thank you, Jacksonville. We appreciate you giving the Detroit Lions Aiden Hutchinson.
And what you love even more about Aiden Hutchinson is the fact that when you're comparing him to the other rookie 1st-round draft picks, none of them are busts. They're all making plays. They all look like they belong, like Trayvon Walker, Kayvon Thibodeau, and George Karlaftis.
Yes.
But there's also, to me, a marked difference between those 3 and Aiden Hutchinson, his impact on this team.
He is, what they've said, he was the most pro-ready.
Yes.
Obviously, he had his struggles in the beginning of the year, but he dealt with some injuries and he was moving around. And then when they stood him up and they gave him the confidence, he has been on a tear. He has been on an absolute tear.
And when Aiden Hutchinson plays well, it affects the whole defense. You see, like, they kind of go as he goes because, in my opinion, Aiden Hutchinson, pretty much since day one, after he kind of had to acclimate himself, but once the defense started playing better, he is the best defensive player on this team right now.
Yes.
He is the most valuable defensive player on this team right now because you see what he does in the run game. You see him playing so many snaps. You see him, even when he's not getting the sacks, he's holding contain. He's not over pursuing like he used to.
Yes.
I mean, I know there was kind of a blip at Carolina, but that was a whole team failure.
He's a rookie.
Yes, but other than that, He's played great football.
Very, very good football. He's been great football. He's a very fine football player, as Terry Foster would say. No, he's excellent. He's everything you expect him to be. He is, like you said, the best player on your defense right now.
Yes.
And he is only going to get better as his career goes on. JB, what do you make of this Lions rookie pass rushing trio that just dominated the Bears and sacked Justin Fields 5.5 times alone?
This rookie defensive team has been really impressive this season. I know you guys have mentioned this before, but combined for 18.5 sacks this season. Do you guys know that they are on pace to either tie or break Tennessee's 1999 record of 19 sacks?
Great stat, JB.
Do you believe, just think about this, this upcoming weekend in Lambeau Field, sacking Aaron Rodgers to set a new league record?
That would be awesome. And it's going to happen.
Unreal.
Aaron Rodgers hasn't seen James Houston yet. That first game, James Houston didn't play. Aaron Rodgers is in for a rude awakening. And you look at... I totally forgot what I was going to say. I had a good point, but I forgot it. But the Lions and these guys are just... Okay, yeah, I got it now. Last year, that was the biggest thing, the Lions' biggest weakness was edge rush. You had Charles Harris was your best edge rusher. Yeah. Obviously, Romeo Okwara went down, and now they have a legitimate 5 to 6 edge rush rotation of guys that can go in there with Romeo Okwara back. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson. When Julian Okwara comes back from injury, who was playing great before he got injured, you add a guy like James Houston, who is just a dog out there. Charles Harris is also injured and could be a great depth guy. And then you look at Josh Pascal and Frank Kaminsky and guys that you can move around in there. They have a wealth of pass rushers now, which is crazy to see. In 1 year.
In 1 year,
Brad Holmes got 3 pass rushers that are producing at a very high level.
And do you think the fact that they've added so much depth and guys like John Kaminsky have stepped up, Romeo Okwara when he's been healthy, Julian Okwara when he's been healthy, do you think that is kind of made it so that James Houston has stayed fresh? Guys like Aiden Hutchinson have stayed fresh. And now Josh Pascal, a guy, like I said, we didn't see much from him. We would have probably been okay with it being like, okay, it was a lost season. He'll come back next year. He's even contributing. I mean, the pass rush, it's the strength of the defense. And if any unit is going to be a strength of your defense, you want it to be the pass rush.
It's 100% that is what wins games, is ripping the quarterback's head off. And you need that to win games. And I looked at, before we go to break here, I just did want to say one thing about them stepping up and them making things happen. It's so impressive for them to do this their rookie year, because what we talked about, the lack of pass rushers at the beginning of the year when Aiden Hutchinson was struggling, my argument was he's playing too much. Yes. He's playing too many games. He was playing 95% of the defensive snaps. And you look at the great edge rushers, Nick Bosa, around 70 to 80% of defensive snaps. Micah Parsons, around 85% of defensive snaps. Khalil Mack, 70% of defensive snaps. Things like that. When you have the ability to stay fresh like that, at the end of the game, when it matters, they're ready to attack. And now that you have that rotation, people like James Houston and Aiden Hutchinson are benefiting from it because they're fresher when the game goes on. But we will talk more about the Lions and how their run game bounced back as well against the Chicago Bears. But first, we need to hear about Lady Jane's Haircuts
Lady
for Men.
Jane's. Come to Lady Jane's for an award-winning experience and register for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win a down payment for your dream home up to $200,000. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Wicked.
Hi, I'm John from Better Rate Mortgage, and to me, family is more than blood. That's why I have the biggest family in Metro Detroit. If you're looking to buy a house or refinance and need a loan, come get treated better than family by me and our entire team here at Better Rate Mortgage. We pride ourselves on giving you better advice, better service, and a better loan experience. That's why we are Better Rate. If you're looking for a new mortgage, come get treated like family. Actually, better with Better Rate Mortgage. Visit us at mybetterrate.com or call at 248-480-4467 today.
3 NBA championships. Detroit fans were there. 11 Stanley Cups. Detroit fans were there. 4 World Series wins. Detroit fans were there. And that one Lions playoff win in 1991. Yeah, Detroit fans were there. Woodward Sports, where the fans are.
3, 2, 1.
Downtown Detroit is all decked out this holiday season with the return of the Cadillac Lodge and the Monroe Street Midway. The Midway's got the giant slide, the winter bumper cars, and of course that indoor arcade. Plus you can grab a drink at the lodge before or after any Lions, Wings, or Piston home game. Shop, eat, and play downtown all winter long with Decked Out Detroit, and you can always check them out at deckedoutdetroit.com.
Decked Out. Welcome back, everyone, to the final word. I'm just kidding. It is Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, without Ermanni and Edwards and Maz, who are on vacation. But filling in is Bambi in the Maz chair. I am Spencer Raxter. He is Flannel Sam. We've got Fletch in the TD booth and JB Smooth on the ones and twos. We are live on woodwardsports.com and fox2.com. We just got done talking about the Lions' young pass rushers and how much they have impressed us, not only against the Chicago Bears, but all season. Something that didn't really impress us for about a 5-week stretch was the Lions' run game. The Lions' run game had been faltering. Ben Johnson had even said it was not living up to the standards that they set for themselves at the beginning of the year. They were kind of perplexed with why it wasn't working, and they needed to fix it. And what they did against the Chicago Bears was fix it in a big way. Jamal Williams had 144 yards on 6.5 yards a carry. DeAndre Swift had 78 yards on 7.1 yards a carry. And as a team, the Lions ran for 265 yards on the ground for 6.8 yards per carry. That is an impressive showing on the ground. And it feels like to me that the offensive line took personally what happened against Carolina, because we've been talking about them all year, saying this is a top 5, top 3 unit in the NFL, that these guys are the soul of this team. The identity of the team is the offensive line, where they can go in there and push people around at will. And in Carolina, they kind of got stood up. They kind of got embarrassed, and it seems like they felt that themselves as well, came into the game against Chicago and went out there and dominated the Bears.
I mean, the reality is that going forward, if they want to go win in Green Bay, if they want to then win a playoff game, maybe playoff games, they're going to be on the road, and on the road, you're going to have to get your running game going. And for a pretty large chunk of the season, almost a disturbingly large chunk of the season, even though they were winning some games, the running game looked pretty mid. The run blocking even looked kind of mid. Jamal Williams, in his previous 4 games up to yesterday's, 47 carries for 116 yards combined. He eclipsed that in one game on Sunday, 144 yards.
And he became a 1,000-yard rusher.
Isn't he 6 away? Or did he hit it?
No, he had 1,000.
He has 1,000?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but that's...
He's 6 away from... Oh, wait, you might be right.
I mean, that's not too important. He's going to get it anyway, but that's important. Jamal Williams was your best running back all year by far. He had almost twice as many yards as DeAndre Swift, and he wasn't playing well, and he got it going. DeAndre Swift had his best game running the football since week 1, and it was nice to see him make plays. It was nice to see him get that touchdown run and consistently get those chunk yardage. The Lions, coming into the season, I thought their running game would be a strength. I thought it would always be a strength. I thought it was kind of a non-negotiable.
Yes.
But it hadn't been looking like a non-negotiable. It was looking like a negotiable.
It was. And you look at, yes, you're right. He's sitting at 994 rushing yards, but he's going to get that next week. And you look at DeAndre Swift bouncing back was a big thing for me. We saw that run play. They called a running back draw. I think it was 3rd and 15.
They got it.
And he took it for 30 yards, or 18 yards, whatever it was. He was in the hole stopped, and you saw the old shades of DeAndre Swift, where he spins off the tackler, skirts away from another guy, and ends up cutting it up for a first down. And that play right there was big for the Detroit Lions to keep the momentum going, keep that drive alive, and keep going down the field. And you saw the explosiveness of DeAndre Swift that you saw at the beginning of the year. I've said it multiple times that I think they cut back on DeAndre Swift's carries because they were worried about him getting injured. They knew that he had the potential, but every time he's been in a position to get the workload, to get that RB1 type level of gameplay and rushing attempts, he would get injured and they lose him for a couple weeks. Now he's healthy. Now they're fighting for a playoff spot, and they know when they can unleash him. They know when they can use him to his full ability. And like I said, he went for 78 yards on the ground and 38 yards through the air.
And that's
what you need out of DeAndre Swift.
That is a perfect DeAndre Swift style game. Obviously, I had very high expectations for him coming into the year, and his body sort of betrayed him like it always does. And I was kind of questioning that they weren't using him they're using him very, very sparingly throughout like a large chunk of the year. But in a game like this, when they needed to have it, he stepped up big. I mean, that 3rd and 18 run, when you run a draw on 3rd and 18 as an offense, you're basically saying, I give up.
We just want to get 6 yards.
Just want to get 6 yards. And he took it for a first down. He looked like he was stopped, too.
Yes, he did.
And then he
spin move. Hit that circle button.
Hit that circle button. Yeah. And at that point, it was only 24-10 Lions. So imagine if they don't get that first down. But instead, it completely was a backbreaker for the Chicago Bears. Just imagine going into Lambeau and potentially going into the playoffs, having both running backs, Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift, playing at a high level.
It's impressive. That is what people always say. What translates on the road, what translates in cold weather games is the run game. And when you have a offensive line like the Lions do, they can make that work. When you have the kind of back combination of a Jamal Williams and a DeAndre Swift, who are literally like lightning and thunder, like Jamal Williams is your bruiser, your goal line, your big back, and then DeAndre Swift is lightning in a bottle, to where when he touches the ball, he can be absolutely explosive. And that kind of combination, along with the Lions' offensive line, is how you win games late in the season, in cold weather and on the road. Hopefully it will translate against the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, and a game like this for Jamal Williams in particular, like think of what that does for his season as a whole, because he had that terrible stretch, like I said, 47 carries for 116 yards in 4 games. That's beyond awful. But with that great game that he had, 144 yards and a touchdown on 22 carries, he's put himself in position to have an 1,000-yard season and potentially next week tie or break Barry Sanders' record for rushing touchdowns in a season.
I believe it was Justin Rogers or someone posted on Twitter that Jamal Williams has a bonus in his contract. If he hits 1,000 yards, he gets a $250,000 bonus.
That's unbelievable.
And his teammates knew it. The coaching staff knew it. So when he busted out that big run, that's why you saw Jared Goff running down the sidelines like, let's go. And everybody was cheering him on because now he is 6 yards away from $250,000. And like you said, is a touchdown away from tying Barry Sanders' single-season record for the Detroit Lions. It's just amazing to see what this – and you guys know, I'm a big anime guy, so I'm a big Jamal Williams guy.
Pokemon.
He's telling Jeff Rieger not to call it Pokemon after the game, and it's just awesome. But you love to see this team buying in and going back to their identity. Yeah, the Bears' defense is bad. It's not a good defense, but it still feels good to see the Lions go out and do that. JB, what did you feel about the running game for the Lions in this dominating win over the Bears?
How'd I feel, man? Welcome back, Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. And also, J-Mo getting into the conversation, too, as well. Like, come on, 265 yards? They haven't had this type of rushing yards since 1991 in a single game.
Yes.
Come on. Like, a week before, Carolina was breaking records on us. But this past weekend, we're breaking records against Chicago.
Yes.
So, come on, you got to take your hats off to this rushing game. I don't know what happened or what's changed, but keep this moving forward.
And I agree with Traeger Nick Studios. I'm sorry if it's tough to read when it's in all caps like that. In the Woodward Sports chat says they will have to re-up Jay Will.
Ooh.
I don't know if they have to because there is a loaded running backs class, but I could definitely see them re-signing Jamal Williams. You look at what he means to the team as a leader and a guy in that locker room, as well as how he produces on the field. He likes it here. So I think he'd be willing to take a little bit of a hometown discount. And if they can get him for under $6 million a year, $7 million a year, I'd be all in on re-signing Jamal Williams.
Under $6 million a year, absolutely. And I wonder if getting a bonus like that would make it so that Jamal Williams isn't hurting for the money as much. And think about this. All throughout his entire career, Jamal Williams was just an RB2. A damn good RB2, but just an RB2. This year, he has kind of taken the workload of an RB1, and he's going to have 1,000 yards and at the very least 15 rushing touchdowns and counting. So to me, if I'm Jamal Williams, I'm looking at that offensive line. I'm looking like what I was able to produce for the first time in my career, and I'm thinking, I want that.
Yeah, I would too. I would want, and he, like I said, he seems to like it here. Obviously, everyone loves playing under Dan Campbell, so that's a big reason of it. But he's just a happy guy, and I'm happy to see him thriving. He's always been a fan favorite, no matter where he is, and now he's having the best season of his career for the Detroit Lions. So that is awesome. But before we go to break, let me hear about Chili Peppers Tanning.
Not a problem. Look, Chili Peppers Tanning is where you'll find the cleanest salons in the D, with spotless, sanitized rooms and trained certified professionals. Join the Pepper Club today, and they will beat all competitors by $5.
$5?
Yes, $5. But don't forget to pick up Australian Gold, Designer Skin, Cal Tan, and Swedish Beauty Lotions. With 27 locations and more coming soon, Chili Peppers Tanning is your vitamin D headquarters. The hottest bulbs, the hottest deals, the darkest tan is ChiliPeppersTanning.com.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on Shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Beverly Hills Golf, Woodward Golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
I'm Dr. Jason Olafson, DC, the founder of the Custom Health Centers, and we've helped thousands of people learn how easy it is to lose weight and keep it off with our customized weight loss and body contouring programs.
With Custom Health, you don't feel hungry, you eat well. My name is Simeon Timbuk, and I lost 71 pounds on the program.
Call us at 844-789-THIN or visit CustomHealthCenters.com for a free consultation and get started for as little as $5 a day.
Can't get enough Woodward Sports content? Head over to woodwardsports.com right now for up-to-date sports articles and great entertainment news. We have the best writers, bloggers, and coverage all at your fingertips. Head to woodwardsports.com right now to experience all Woodward Sports has to offer.
Cintron is the official energy drink of the Red Wings. Cintron has combined all three of their delicious flavors into a limited edition 6-pack sampler box. Try Cintron's great tasting cranberry, classics, and sugar-free all in one pack. Pre-order your Cintron 6-pack sampler box today at cintronworld.com/Red Wings. And get energized with Cintron, and let's go Red Wings. Welcome back, everyone, to Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. Without Ermanni and Edwards and Maz, I am Spencer Raxter, filling in for Ryan Ermanni. He is Sam Flannel, filling in for Braylon Edwards. We have Bambi in the Maz chair, filling in for him. In the TD booth, we got Fletch and JB Smooth on the ones and twos. We just got done talking about the Lions game, bouncing back for that running backs, for that offensive line, coming back in a vengeance against the Chicago Bears. Now we have to talk about something else. Something we've been seeing for a couple weeks now, and something that is a very real possibility, especially if they go into Lambo, get a victory, and somehow sneak into the playoffs. Can Dan Campbell, Motor City Dan Campbell, brother, can he actually win Coach of the Year? You see Nick Sirianni and the Eagles falling back because no Jalen Hurts, Gardner Minshew can't get the dubs, but Dan the Man Campbell still pushing forward. Can he win Coach of the Year?
He can.
He can.
But
he said it. He can. Chalk it up, folks.
But I think Brian Daboll's going to win it, and I think Brian Daboll should win it.
Yeah.
They've already gotten into the playoffs.
Even after the Lions embarrassed them in their house?
That is true, but we're looking at a team right now that has been decimated by injuries on their defense at times. I mean, they've had games where Kayvon hasn't played, Leonard Williams, Jalen Smith, Adoree Jackson, Azeez Ojulari, Xavier McKinney. They've all missed time. And a wide receiver core that's missed Sterling Shepard for the season, where Kenny Galladay's been a complete non-factor, just with like Darius Slayton and Richie James are their wide receivers. And they were coming off of, I believe, a four-win season last year under Joe Judge.
Yes.
And they've already elevated to in the playoffs. To me, it's Brian Daboll's award to lose because they're already in. They've already made that improvement under him under year one. The Lions, hell, they could have a winning record. And what Dan Campbell has done, especially kind of galvanizing the team when they were 1-6, they could have quit, they didn't. I'm very, very impressed. He could triple his win total from last year.
I agree. I do think it'll be tough for him to win because, like you said, they're already in. Nick Sirianni with the Eagles, obviously everything that he's done. But you look at these years, these awards, and they're kind of a popularity contest at some point. And who is more popular as a head coach right now than Dan Campbell?
Nobody.
With what he's been doing, with Hard Knocks in Detroit, with all of the starting 1-6, clawing his way out of the NFL basement, the NFL cellar, to being a team that is fighting for a playoff spot, to being a team that can finish with a winning record. It's extremely impressive to me. Dan Campbell was sitting at the second best odds for Coach of the Year last week. I don't know what they'll be at this year, but I got to think he'll be right around the top, and I would not be surprised to see him walk away with some hardware if they can win in Lambeau. And definitely, if they make the playoffs, he should for sure get it.
I would. Okay, so let me back this up. If they would have ran the table after starting 1-6 and losing against Buffalo and finished the season 10-7, I would have given Coach of the Year to Dan Campbell, but that didn't happen with that bad loss at Carolina. I just think with what Brian Daboll has been able to do, already get them in the playoffs with, I think, a worse roster, more banged up. You can't, especially in his first season, kind of inheriting what he inherited. Saquon Barkley has looked the best he's looked since his rookie year under him. Daniel Jones, although he hasn't been asked to do a ton, he's looked the best he has in his career.
And he's got nobody at the receiving corps.
Nobody. And the defense, bringing a guy on like Wink Martindale, that's also huge. The fact that he was able to recognize that and bring him on is a big deal. I just think the Giants already being in the playoffs, you got to give it to him. And Nick Sirianni, he's another one that has been talked about. I think in order for Nick Sirianni to have won it with that talented of a roster, they would have had to finish the season like 15-2 or 16-1. Right now, they're in a position where they might not even win their own division.
That is
I
pretty
think
wild.
he's out. I think it's a two-man race. You got to go. It's either Brian Daboll or Dan Campbell. And hell, if Dan Campbell goes into Lambeau, which I don't want to think about, and loses, he's out. I think it's Brian Daboll's award to lose.
Okay, JB, how do you feel about it? You think MCDC, brother? You think he can take home the Coach of the Year award?
Yeah, I definitely can. I mean, let's face it. Watching the Detroit Lions on Sunday has become fun once again. I know they started the season 1-6, but that turnaround right there has got to have you on Dan Campbell's side. And yes, Coach of the Year is majority about winning games, but also it comes down to exceeding expectations set by your peers prior to the season starting as well, too. And you have to give credit to Dan Campbell. I know some of the interviews are cringy and you get mixed reviews from stuff that he says, but come on, this dude has turned the team and the city of Detroit around once again to be on the Lions side. So it's like you have to push for him, man.
You have to push for him. You look at this, and he has, like you said, mid-season turned this team around, where obviously they had the 3-win season last year. People are calling for his head already. And then he starts 1-6 this year. People are calling for his head. He doesn't deserve this. He doesn't belong here. He's just a meathead. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then boom, they snap off this streak where they've won 7 out of their last 9 games. They're playing extremely impressive football, and they're going out there and dominating teams. They're dominating. It's not like they're going out there and winning by 1 point to the Bears, even though they did earlier in the year. They come back and they blow out the Bears. They blow out the Giants at home. In the Netherlands, as Easy said. They blow out the division contending Jacksonville Jaguars, who are in a great spot with Trevor Lawrence, played his worst game of the year against the Detroit Lions. He was hot before that. He's been hot after that, and the Detroit Lions shut him down and dominated that game. They dominate the division-winning Minnesota Vikings. It's like the things he's been doing are so impressive to me, how he galvanizes the players. We've always said when he got the job, there's no question, can he be a leader of men? Can he get people to buy in? He's somebody that's what it was. That's what his reputation was. That's what he was sold on, was being a leader of men, being a guy that will have everyone bought in. And to have them so bought in that they didn't give up at 1-6. And then you see the coaching gears changing. You see him making better decisions, not being like, F it, we're going for it on every fourth down. He's doing it strategically. He's taking the points when they need to. He's punting the ball when they need to. And he has learned from his late game failures to where I think he's grown enough. This team has flipped so much that if they win in Lambeau, they have to give him the award.
I'll tell you what, the fact that he's even put himself in this position is extremely impressive. Like I said, I don't think he'll win it, but the fact that he has already done so much to make you think that he can be the guy moving forward, that he definitely is the guy moving forward into next year. He is a guy that they can win with, maybe win a division next year, maybe win a playoff game.
Yeah.
And to me, too, it speaks to when they've been winning in that 7-2 stretch, the Carolina game notwithstanding, they've played so disciplined. They're not committing penalties. They're not turning the football over. They're letting other teams make those mistakes. They're letting other teams commit turnovers, penalties that cost them games, but not the Lions. Whereas earlier on in the year, it was often the Lions who, under Dan Campbell, had some dumb coaching decisions, had some costly turnovers and penalties.
You look at that, a second-year head coach, a second-year defensive coordinator, a first-year offensive coordinator, one of the youngest teams in the NFL with only a single player on their roster above the age of 30. And like you said, they're not turning the ball over. They're not committing penalties. They're not doing things you would expect of a young team. And how do you win in the NFL? You don't turn the ball over. You force turnovers. You don't shoot yourself in the foot with penalties, and you play complementary football. And that's what the Detroit Lions have been doing in this stretch of great football. And Dan Campbell has these guys functioning to their highest ability. Dan Campbell has these guys play. Look at the tight end room.
Yep.
Without TJ Hawkinson, they are the first team in the NFL in 20-something years to have multiple tight ends catch 4 touchdowns in a single season. It is so impressive to me that he has these guys so bought in, he has these guys so prepared and so ready to go every week after the death penalty at the beginning of the year, after being in the slums of the NFL at 1-6 and thinking, I remember doing a show where looking at the schedule like, we can beat the Bears, but I don't know if I see any other victories. And then now it's, who do we got? Who's going to beat us? The Detroit Lions are there. They're taking names. They're kicking butt, and you love to see it. And it stems from Dan Campbell's leadership.
Yep, that's coaching. That's coaching that makes a team not give up at 1-6. The coordinators are obviously doing a great job, particularly Ben Johnson. Aaron Glenn, even, I've had some questions about him in the past. Even after the Carolina game, I was kind of like, But look how the defense performed at home against Chicago. That's coaching, playing discipline. The Lions play hard for him, but just playing hard and kind of being a leader, that's not enough. The fact that they're playing so disciplined, they're not committing penalties, they're not beating themselves.
No.
They're forcing other teams to beat them. They're not doing dumb things in close games. They're not playing a lot of close games.
Yes.
They're a lot of blowouts, but that's fine.
It's fine.
I want to see them just beat down these teams. I mean, they beat down, like you said, Jacksonville, a team that before then and since then have been playing great.
Lights out football.
They beat down the Minnesota Vikings, who even though they're a fraudulent team with a minus 19-point differential, they still found a way to eke out 12 wins. And they beat the division winner. And
it's amazing to watch, and like we said, when you were looking at it early in the season, all of the things were there. This team can't beat anybody. They're 1-6. Dan Campbell has not won a road game in his career.
You forget about that.
You forget about that.
Wow.
You forget about looking like, okay, they're going on the road. Now you go on the road, you beat both of the New York teams in the Netherlands. You go on the road and you beat the Minnesota Vikings. Or no, that was at home.
Yes.
You go on the road and you beat the Chicago Bears in Soldier Field, which is not an easy place to play in. No. And now Chicago comes here and you kick their butt. It's impressive with the expectations of what this team was supposed to be at the beginning of the year. I had them at 7 wins. They're already past that. You look at the expectations of what this team was when they were at 1-6. I had them at 5 wins, and they're already way past that. So for Dan Campbell to do that mid-season to help these guys grow has been extremely impressive. And I think I agree with you. It is a 2-horse race at this point, and I think if they win in Lambeau, end up with a winning record, and just need Seattle to lose to make the playoffs, Dan Campbell should 100% win Coach of the Year.
If they make the playoffs, You know what? I'm not saying that you're converting me completely because I still respect what Brian Daboll has done, and I still think he deserves it as of now.
I do too.
But the Lions in the playoffs.
But Dan Campbell pumped Brian Daboll in his house.
And the Lions, if they make the playoffs, if they, what would it be, starting 1-6 and finishing the season, 8-2?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Insane.
And, oh my God, you mentioned the road. Remember when he couldn't win a road game?
Couldn't win a road game.
And now we're confident that he can go into the frozen tundra of Lambo Field and end the Packers season and potentially put the Lions in the playoffs. That's something. Imagine if I would have told you that.
Yeah, I would have said you're stupid.
I thought at one point this year that they would lose out on the road and he would go 2 seasons with no road wins.
I wouldn't have argued with you at that point.
And now he has 3, including 2 wins at the New York teams. 2 New York teams where the Giants are in the playoffs, and the Jets are playoffs, and the Jets are better than we thought that they would be. Although they're kind of faltering now, but they're still an up and coming team. So just very impressive job that Dan Campbell.
Very impressive job that Dan Campbell has done. He is the guy, and we are going to talk more about this offense and about Ben Johnson in just a minute. But first, let me hear about Guardian Alarm.
All right, Guardian Alarm. Right now is the perfect time to make sure you have peace of mind and home security from Guardian Alarm, the most trusted name in home and business security. With 24/7 monitoring, you can have the peace of mind knowing you are backed by the best. Call 1-800-STAY-OUT. That's 1-800-STAY-OUT. Tell them Woodward Sports sent you.
Tell them.
The sports marketing agency would not be who we are without great community partners like Higuera Health and Carol Zuniga.
It's an awesome opportunity to partner with your organization. Higuera Health is a comprehensive behavioral health organization. We serve children through older adults with mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities across Western Wayne counties, and really excited to now be in downriver communities as well. Give us a call at 734-458-4601.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit, but we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side.
Lemieux and McCarty, who've had a good knockdown drag up. There they go, right on the whistle. They were talking to one another.
Woodward Sports.
Stay out.
Wintertime in Detroit is always better with comfort foods from Big Boy. Try the new
Big Boy.
Try the classic meatloaf or their Cajun chicken Alfredo. Or what about breakfast? The stuffed potato pancakes are back. Try the Lumberjack, the Santa Fe, or the Blockbuster. Stop by your local Big Boy today and give them a try.
Big Boy, give me the loaf. Welcome back, everyone, to the Woodward Sports Network. Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. Without Ermanni, Edwards, and Maz. We are live on WoodwardSports.com and Fox2.com. I am Spencer Raxter. He is Flannel Sam. We have Fletch, of course, in the TD booth holding it down, and JB Smooth on the 1s and 2s. We just got done talking about Dan Campbell's Coach of the Year aspirations. And now we talked about the defense. We talked about the run game. We talked about Dan Campbell. Let's talk about the offense, because I see a lot of Jared Goff love in the Woodward Sports chat, which rightfully so.
Yeah.
He's having a fantastic year.
Yes.
Arguably the best year of his career.
Yep.
You look at, he's already eclipsed my season predictions of what I thought. I had him at 3,700 yards, 27 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He's already way past that. So shout out to Jared Goff and to what he's doing. It's very impressive. But a big part of that is being slept on in my mind. And that's not taking away from Jared Goff. You still have to go out there and execute. But Sir Benjamin Johnson Esquire, the prodigal son, the wizard of offense. You look at some of these stats. I looked at these before the show started. Shout out to Lions PR on Twitter, because they put up some of these stats, and it kind of blew my mind.
Yep.
This is the first time in Lions history that they have had 2,000 rushing yards and 20 touchdowns in the same season since 1989.
Wow.
This is the first time the Lions have had 2,000 rushing yards in a season since 97. At home, the Lions have set 3 records, franchise records. Right there. Beautiful. You got it. 3,709 total net yards, 298 points, and 36 touchdowns. All 3 markings are franchise records by the Detroit Lions in home games in a single season. Another one. The Detroit Lions have 4,000 passing yards and 2,000 rushing yards for the first time in team history. The first time. And Lions wide receivers have 171 rushing yards. That is the most in franchise history and third in the NFL this season. Ben Johnson has been cooking up offense like hotcakes at Big Boy. It is beautiful to see this happen. He is such a talented offensive mind. He is bringing the best out of Jared Goff, and Jared Goff is going out there and executing. I don't want to take anything away from him. He is executing, and he is putting himself in the situations he needs to succeed. But Ben Johnson is, by these stats, right here, per Lions PR, the best offensive coordinator the Lions have ever had. I don't want to go that far, but at least since 97. Yep. Like, this is impressive stuff that the Lions offense is doing.
I'll tell you what, this is the best Lions offense I've ever seen. By your numbers, by any statistical measure.
The numbers.
This is an
Shout out to Woodward Heavyweights, 5 to 7
5 to 7. This is an elite offense. Think about it. Jared Goff is having the best season of his career. He's playing better than he did at his highest level in Los Angeles. Jamal Williams in that running game has been, overall this season, one of the better running games in the NFL. Just overall, I know it's had some points where it hasn't looked so great, but Jamal Williams is going to have an 1,000-yard season. DeAndre Swift is probably going to have 650, 700 or something like that. That's a good combination. And then the passing game, you look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has absolutely thrived, like flown under Ben Johnson, has turned from being pretty good for a fourth-round draft pick to being a top 10 receiver in the NFL. So a lot of the credit for this has to go to Ben Johnson, because obviously we got to give a lot to Jared Goff, a lot to the receivers, the offensive line, the running backs, but Ben Johnson, to win in the modern NFL, you need an offensive guy like a Ben Johnson, a guy who's innovative, who kind of schemes guys open, who schemes running plays that, sort of get the offensive linemen to their talents, and running backs, create holes for running backs.
Yeah, you heard defensive coordinators say that in the beginning of the year, too, this wasn't even now when they're thriving, that his running game and his blocking scheme is so hard to take account for, because how they build so many different plays off of the same motions, off of the same things. We talked about the Penei Sewell catch that sealed the game. That was built off of the same motion, off of the same play. You can see the same lineup out there, same pre-snap motions, same blocking assignments, and 4 different plays ran off of it. It's Ben Johnson is amazing. And like I said, I'm not taking anything away from Jared Goff, because as well as someone can scheme something up or cook something up, you need someone to go out there and execute. And Jared Goff has gone out there and execute. He is playing the best football he's played in his career. Hats off to him. He's playing fantastic. But Ben Johnson also deserves a lot of credit. Like I said, dude, again, the first time since 1989, the Lions have had 2,000 rushing yards and 20 rushing touchdowns in the same season. The first time in franchise history, the Lions have had 4,000 passing yards and 2,000 rushing yards in one season. It's absolutely amazing.
And it's even more impressive when you look at early on last season, with largely a lot of the same personnel. Did you see how bad their offense looked under Anthony Lynn? I know we like to keep beating up on the guy, but it just kind of speaks to what elevating Ben Johnson to passing game coordinator and then making him offensive coordinator has done. Up until, I believe they started the season last year, was it 0-11-1 or 0-10-1?
0-11-1.
For those first 12 games, they were averaging 15.8 points per game until their first win. And a lot of that was under Anthony Lynn. And this year, 27.1. They're the 5th rate scoring offense in the NFL. They're right up there with teams like the Chiefs and the Bills and the Eagles. And this is not an offense with the personnel that I think is as talented as those. So having a great offensive line, having Jared Goff be able to sort of execute those Ben Johnson plays, having running backs that can their talents be maximized as well, having a wide receiver like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who just runs some of the best routes in the NFL, and even a DJ Chark, who has emerged ever since he's came back healthy, kind of showing why he was signed. Khalif Raymond,
Raymond's been playing well.
He's been playing great. Josh Reynolds.
Yes. The Serpent of Death.
The Serpent of Death.
That's a great nickname.
That's a great name. I remember where they're like, the Serpent of Death, and then Josh Reynolds came out. It's like, what? He's the Serpent of Death?
Yeah, it's fair. I love it. But yeah, I agree. It's on Ben Johnson for sure, on Jared Goff for sure. Props to both, because you can't have one without the other.
You can't.
You can't have a great well, I mean, I guess Kyle Shanahan does it. Like, he doesn't have great quarterbacks, but they still have a great offense every year. But Jared Goff Kyle Shanahan would be head over heels if he had Jared Goff.
Sure.
And you look at what they're doing, and it is extremely impressive. It is extremely impressive. He's putting him in situations to succeed, and Jared Goff is going out there and he's succeeding. He is not turning the ball over. He's making throws when he had a fantastic throw against his throw to DJ Chark down the sidelines, where he put it right over the receiver, and DJ Chark had to, he reached out for it and it fell right. That was one of the best throws I've seen Jared Goff make in a Lions uniform.
Yeah, and Ben Johnson has sort of maximized Jared Goff. I mean, when has Jared Goff always been most successful? When he had a guy like Sean McVay.
Yes.
When he had a good roster. But I think more important was even Sean McVay sort of calling the plays. And now you have a guy like Ben Johnson who, I'm not saying he's the next Sean McVay. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't become Sean McVay, because he is that young, innovative offensive mind that has taken this offense from a terrible offense with Jared Goff having the worst season of his career to an elite offense where Jared Goff is playing the best football of his career. And a lot of that is due to Ben Johnson.
It is. A lot of that credit is due to Ben Johnson. We saw Jared Goff in an Anthony Lynn offense. Didn't look great. You saw Jared Goff in a Jeff Fisher offense. Terrible. But then you get him in a Sean McVay and a Ben Johnson offense, and you see that he can go out there and he can do what he needs to do, get the ball to their playmakers and run an offense. And he's been doing it at a very high level this season.
I mean, Ben Johnson, to me, I can argue is, I wouldn't say the most, but one of the most valuable coordinators in all of the NFL.
The most by far.
And you know what? I'm not gonna fight that, because off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody who's been more instrumental to their team's success. Because even though they have an elite offensive line, Jared Goff's not an elite quarterback. Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift are fine, but they're not elite running backs. They're wide receivers. Amon-Ra St. Brown but he became that because not all because of Ben Johnson, but in large part due to Ben Johnson. He wasn't putting up these numbers with Anthony Lynn. He was just kind of an okay rookie. Then he just blossomed. He should give some of his paycheck to Ben Johnson when he gets paid. That's how valuable Ben Johnson is.
It is. Shout out to Ben Johnson and shout out to Jared Goff, because like I said, you can't have one without the other. You can have all the schemes in the world, but you need someone to go out there and execute it, and he has done that. And he has 12 touchdowns and no interceptions in his last streak of games. So
29-7 on the season, like a whole season. That's a great ratio.
Very, very good ratio. Very impressed. He's a very fine quarterback. Very impressed with Jared Goff. He's having a fantastic year. But we are going to come back and we're going to talk about the other coordinator for the Detroit Lions. But first, we got to talk about Custom Health Centers.
Custom Health Centers. Get your customized approach to weight loss. Think of all the ways that weight loss affects your health, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Custom Health Center is blessed to have had over 20,000 success stories, including the man who usually sits in my seat, Ryan Ermanni. He's down.
My God, it's Ryan Ermanni.
He is a lean, mean fighting machine now, where before he was a little plump. It has been our honor to help many professional athletes lose weight and improve their health. People like Detroit Lion Eddie Murray and the aforementioned Ryan Ermanni and Detroit Piston Rick Mahorn. Start losing weight today. Call Dr. Jason and Custom Health at 844-789-8446. That's 844-789-8446.
We here at Woodward Sports would like to thank everybody who helped us stuff our studio. The third annual Stuff a Studio was a major success, thanks in part to our partners at Guardian Alarm and Myers Stores for making it all possible. And of course, we couldn't do it without our community leaders and viewers like you. Thank you for dropping off toys to our studio that were taken to the Mott Children's Hospital in Ann Arbor so every sick child could have a happy holiday.
We are incredibly grateful for Woodward Sports, Guardian Alarm, and Meyer for making the holidays so special for our patients and families.
So what we do is try to bring some normalcy to their lives at this time. This is a labor of love. It brings so much joy, and not just for the families and for the children, but for our staff.
Thank you.
You don't have to go to the beach, man. You don't have to get your butt crack full of sand. You just need a little chili peppers, man, to get that glowing beach chili peppers tan. Woo!
With 26 locations in the Metro Detroit area and more coming, Chili Peppers Tanning is where you'll find the cleanest salons in the D. Join the Pepper Club for the best deals on unlimited tanning. Head to chilipepperstanning.com.
You just need a little chili peppers, man.
A ton of fun, a ton of sports, and a ton of man meat. Welcome to the Woodward Heavyweights, live daily 5 to 7 p.m. on Woodward Sports.
Matrix Home Solutions is your go-to for any home project. Looking for a new man cave? Well, they have you covered. They are the basement remodel experts. Plus, they also specialize in bathrooms and kitchens as well. With an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, give them a try. Give them a call at 888-594-8844, or you can always go to matrixhomesolutions.com.
Take the blue pill. Welcome back, everyone, to Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, without Ermanni and Edwards and Maz. I am Spencer Raxter. He is Flannel Sam. We've got Fletch in the TD booth and JB Smooth on the ones and twos. We are live on woodwardsports.com and fox2.com. I forgot I'm making my Fox 2 debut. Hi, Mom. I know you watch Fox 2. Okay, so we just got done talking about Ben Johnson and his wizardry, but now we got to talk about Aaron Glenn.
Hey.
Because Aaron Glenn has been kind of dissected at parts in this year, poked at, telling him to get out of here. A lot of people, and rightfully so, at the beginning of the year with the historically bad defense, but it's turned around, and the defense has been playing very well outside of the Carolina game. And you look at what they did against Justin Fields, and it's the Bears. I get it. It's the Bears. They're a bad team. They're a bad offense. But holding Justin Fields to 7 completed passes for 75 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, and sacking the man 7 times, that deserves some praise.
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are as an NFL quarterback. It could be Nathan Peterman. It could be Jamarcus Russell. It can be Justin Fields, who with his lack of receiving help is not a good thrower of the football. It doesn't matter. When you're playing up against a quarterback who's not a good thrower of the football, you have to make sure he doesn't kill you. And 33.3% completion percentage, that is very impressive no matter what. Sacking him 7 times. Forcing 2 Justin Fields turnovers. I mean, Aaron Glenn as a whole, I've had questions about him a lot throughout the year when they were a historically bad defense. Yes. Even at Carolina, I tweeted something a little reckless, and your boy Easy wasn't very happy with me because he's always been about defend the Glenn. And fortunately for him and for all Lions fans, I think everybody who's had faith in him has been proven right. I mean, their defense actually, and I know this is sort of not the most meaningful stat, they're no longer last in the NFL.
They are not.
In points allowed.
The Minnesota Vikings, I believe. Oh, well, Minnesota's last in total defense.
Points. I think the Lions are now 29th. I mean, that's a start. Because of how historically bad they were, they needed to climb out of such a hole. And by holding a team like the Bears to 10 points, by holding the Packers in their first meeting to 9, holding the Jets to 17, how many times has he held a team under 20 points in their 7-2 stretch? 5 times. And what is the Lions' record in those games? 5-0. Because when you hold a team to under 20 points in the NFL, especially with the Lions' offense that is as good as they are, you're going to win those games.
You are.
So you have to give a ton of credit to Aaron Glenn and a ton of credit to him for guys like James Houston thriving under him, Aiden Hutchinson, Kirby Joseph, Malcolm Rodriguez. Aaron Glenn has been the guy who's been coordinating that defense and calling the plays. So as much shade as I've given him, and I thought it was deserved at the time, I'm also going to praise him when he does well. And I think overall this season, when you consider everything that he's had, playing with a lot of young players, they've had injuries too, I think Aaron Glenn has shown enough that he's the man for the job going forward, at least in the next year. We shouldn't question or ask for him to be fired.
No, definitely earned himself another year. Obviously, he was working with a very small talent pool on the defensive side of the ball at the beginning of the year. It started to get larger. He started to see some better things happen. And you're right. There are 3 teams averaging more points allowed per game than the Detroit Lions. That is the Arizona Cardinals, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Chicago Bears. So what that says is in the NFC North, a lot like Michigan versus TCU, defense is optional. But it's impressive to see them kind of bounce back. And yeah, they're still not great. They're still not a great defense, but in this stretch, they have been. a great defense. You take out that Carolina game, and they have been playing fantastic defense for a 8-game stretch, which is almost half the season.
I mean, if you take out the Carolina game, which obviously you can't
do
ever
that.
Since they lost to Miami, they have been a great defense. But obviously you can't take away the Carolina game. It was obviously a very, very bad performance. But in the NFL, things like that are going to happen. With a young defense, things like that are going to happen. And the way that they responded, I mean, the way that the defense responded, to me, was the most impressive part of any of it.
Scared me. Maz is staring into my soul.
Hey, he's staring into my soul too. So Aaron Glenn, I mean, and even a guy like James Houston coming out of nowhere to lead all rookies in sacks with 8.
Yeah.
How much credit does Aaron Glenn get?
Aaron Glenn deserves a lot of credit for a lot of the things that he's done this year. But we are going to wrap it up for today. Make sure you all tune in to the Woodward Heavyweights from 5 to 7, where I get a little more loose. A little more loosey-goosey, baby. Loosey-goosey. So you might hear something wild. But for Flannel Sam, for Fletch in the TD booth, JB Smooth on the ones and twos, I am Spencer Raxter. This was Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, without Ermanni and Edwards and Maz. So we appreciate you all for tapping in. Make sure you turn on the Woodward Heavyweights from 5 to 7, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Make sure you download the Woodward Sports app in the App Store and the Google Play Store today. Take Woodward Sports with you wherever you go and listen live on your phone or mobile device.